everyone, and welcome to my new book review series. Hoping to make this more of a regular thing. And, to start off, we're going to be taking a look at Life 3.0, Being Human in the Age of Artificial Intelligence by Max Tegmark, MIT professor and radical scientific thinker. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give a chapter-by-chapter analysis of the book, just an overview of some of the topics it discusses, and my opinions on those topics. I'm also going to be pointing out some helpful little tidbits about the book from the research I've done about it, and also some hidden insights as to what some of the more complicated stuff might mean. So let's get right into this. Welcome to the most important conversation of our time is what the first chapter of Max Tegmark's book is called, as he, goes through some of the more common myths about artificial intelligence, dispelling them in the process, and about what artificial intelligence and its rise in society could actually entail for the world. It's more of an overview in a sense, and it's very helpful for beginning readers, people just getting into what artificial intelligence is, those who have come with the misrepresentation and the mistruth, I should say, that it's only for the rich and powerful, and those who are just curious to start learning as much as they can about it. Chapter 2, titled Matter Turns Intelligent, discusses the concept of intelligence, what advances might need to be made in order to achieve artificial general intelligence, and some of the more technical stuff when it comes to building aware machines. And there are two things I want to stress. One is that this book is in no way a guide for building artificial intelligence of any strength or stature. It's more about predictions and how said predictions will affect our world in the short term and the long term. Which leads me to my second point, which is that absolutely no solid predictions are made in this book. There's no 100% promises or anything like that. And the smartest answer that the book gives, in my opinion, is that we simply don't know how this is going to play out in the end. Artificial intelligence, even the lower grade ones that we have today, are already affecting our world in an uncountable amount of ways, and this is unlikely to stop in the future. So it will be somewhat arrogant to believe that we can accurately predict how such a widespread and diversified technology will affect the future of humanity. This chapter also goes into more depth about what artificial intelligence right now is capable of. This chapter and Chapter 8 are probably going to be the hardest for new readers to get into, just because of all the terminology and technical stuff inside of it. They talk about NAD gates, talk about facial recognition, and one important example I find is how a computer, when it's told to select a cat from a random selection of images, it always selects the cat, even though it has no idea or no concept of what a cat or a photograph is. So it's very interesting stuff if you're into the more technological or technical aspects of AI, or a college student. But for new readers, it might be somewhat wise to skip to Chapter 3, which is where it gets into my favorite part, well, it starts to breach into my favorite part, which is outcomes. Chapter 3 covers some of the near-future consequences and aspects of AI's widespread use. So, for example, how it will affect things like laws, with robo-judges, jobs, with the increased automation of numerous industries, and with weapons, like autonomous weapons systems, which a good chunk of the AI community is actually against. I think there's a bit of a stereotype that AI has something to do with a robot takeover, with heavily armed weapons like in you-know-what. And I should just mention that I like the Terminator franchise, but in terms of artificial intelligence, its depiction is highly inaccurate. I think that goes without saying. Chapter 3 concerns the impact that artificial intelligence has already had on our lives up until the present day, and the implications it'll have for everything from jobs to law to medical breakthroughs in the near future. And obviously there already hold books about those topics in and of themselves, but Max Tegmark does make an effort to cover them. Talks about robo-judges, which are completely AI-powered, or at least completely automated judges, which in theory are supposed to carry out a completely unbiased and ethical judgment. Although in practice, things kind of hit a snag pretty easily. They also talk about how jobs are being automated and what the job market can expect with the rise of artificial intelligence, both now and in the near future. And we're obviously already seeing the effects of this in the United States, and this will likely spread out to the rest of the world over time. So chapter 4 is essentially about juicy outcomes. For example, let's see the totalitarianism one. Now suppose the CEO controlling the Omegas had long-term goals similar to those of Adolf Hitler or Joseph Stalin. For all we know, this might have actually been the case, and he simply kept these goals to himself until he had sufficient power to implement them. Even if the CEO's original goals were noble, Lord Acton cautioned in 1887 that power tends to corrupt, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. For example, he could easily use Prometheus to create the perfect surveillance state. Whereas the government snooping revealed by Edward Snowden aspired to what's known as full take, recording all electronic communications for possible later analysis, Prometheus could enhance this to understanding all electronic communications. By reading all emails and texts ever sent, listening to all phone calls, watching all surveillance videos and traffic cameras, analyzing all credit card transactions, and studying all online behavior, Prometheus would have remarkable insight into what the people of Earth were thinking and doing, at all times. By analyzing cell tower data, it would know where most of them were, at all times. All this assumes only today's data collection technology, but Prometheus could easily invent popular gadgets and wearable tech that would virtually eliminate the privacy of the user, recording and uploading everything they see and hear and their responses to it. With superhuman technology, the step from the perfect surveillance state to the perfect police state would be minute. For example, with the excuse of fighting crime and terrorism and rescuing people suffering medical emergencies, everybody could be required to wear a security bracelet that combined the functionality of an Apple Watch with continuous uploading of position, health status, and conversations overheard. Unauthorized attempts to remove or disable it would cause it to inject a lethal toxin into the forearm. Infractions deemed as less serious by the government would be punished by electric shocks or injection of chemicals causing paralysis or pain, thereby obviating or removing much of the need for a police force. For example, if Prometheus detects that one human is assaulting another, by noting that they're in the same location and one is heard crying for help while their bracelet accelerometers detect the telltale motions of combat, it could promptly disable the attacker with crippling pain, followed by unconsciousness until help arrived. Whereas a human police force may refuse to carry out certain draconian directives, for example, killing all members of a certain demographic group. Such an automated system would have no qualms about implementing the whims of the humans in charge. Once such a totalitarian state forms, it will be virtually impossible for people to overthrow it. Man, these different scenarios are so good. I haven't read any of Max Tegmark's other books as of yet, but if they have scenarios even half as good as this, I'm definitely dropping by my local bookstore. And Chapter 4 also delves deeper into possible outcomes of the original Tale of the Omega scenario put forth at the start of the book. But that is a story for another time, a story for a second part to this review. We're going to cover the outcomes of a superintelligence or an intelligence explosion, what it takes for an artificial intelligence to be conscious, and how humans and how regular people, I say humans, how regular people can get involved in the conversation, the most important conversation of our time. Including my personal analysis on the story and AI's impact. So please tune in again for part 2 of my Life 3.0 book review. My name is Neillan, and I hope to see you there.